All right, are you all ready? All right, my name is Rasmus Jorgensen. I'm with the Mayor's Office. Today we'll hear from the Mayor and FEMA about the Disaster Recovery Center sent up here, and one other coming as well on Monday. We also have with us representatives of the State Emergency Management Agency, the Red Cross, and the U.S. Small Business Administration.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining us here at the Disaster Recovery Center here at Sumner High School. This is one of 3 disaster recovery centers that will be open in St. Louis by Monday to help residents and people affected by the tornado get access to help from FEMA by their staff helping them to get registered for assistance, checking application status, and getting community resources referrals on site. As you know, today is our final day. We're winding down the operations of the Disaster Assistance Center at Chaffetz, which I'm proud to say has served roughly 2,500 households and families, 7,000 individuals in the past 3 weeks. Just a tremendous lift. I want to thank you, St. Louis University, the over 30 organizations who set up shop there and agencies to offer services, individuals who offered assistance, and Uber for providing much needed transportation to get residents there. As we wind down the efforts at the Disaster Assistance Center at Chaffetz, which closes at 7 p.m. tonight. We are scaling up our efforts here in the affected neighborhoods by putting these resources right here in community in collaboration with FEMA and SBA. With this center here, the one we opened last week at the Union Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church, and another one that we're opening early next week with the help of the Urban League, we will have 3 disaster recovery centers directly in the impacted communities. It'll be easier for residents to get assistance, much needed assistance. They need to rebuild their lives. So it's important to everyone who's eligible that they apply for this assistance. With FEMA going on, you can do that online, of course, disasterassistance.gov, calling 1-800-621-3362, or by visiting any of these disaster recovery centers in person. I want to thank St. Louis Public Schools, SLPS, Union Tabernacle, and Urban League for being our hosts here. And I want to thank the Union Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church for hosting us at 626 North Newstead, Urban League at 4401 Natural Bridge starting Monday, and of course St. Louis Public Schools for hosting here at Sumner High School. A couple of other things. SBA help. The U.S. Small Business Administration is also at the Disaster Assistance Centers. I want to be very clear that it's called the Small Business Assistance Center, the majority of their assistance does go to individuals with low interest disaster recovery loans. SBA offers recovery loans to homeowners, renters, and businesses of all sizes, and the private and nonprofit organizations helping recovery efforts. They can help up to $500,000 to repair a home at a primary residence. They can also lend up to $100,000 to replace personal property, and for businesses they can lend up to $2 million, and they have some flexibility on credit scores, which is very, very helpful. These are just a few ways here. I want to thank our FEMA staff and our SBA. I also want to thank our partners here at Missouri, at the state of Missouri, especially here. I know it's really hot. I know we have some generator issues here. Our partners at the state have been enormously helpful in getting new generators out here this morning. We want to make sure residents are staying cool, and those that are getting help are as cool as possible here. Our staff here on the ground here, both at FEMA, SBA, and of course our state partners have been true partners here. It's clear to me from every staff member that's on board, that's behind me, that's on the ground, that these folks really do care about helping our communities, going above and beyond, really exhibiting caring aspects here, making sure that we're doing the best we can. We know that the financial assistance, while it's very important, we know it's limited, but it is important. It is helping. We know it's not enough, but it is a start here, and it does come with compassion. While there's limits there, we do encourage everybody who qualifies, everybody who thinks they might qualify, to go get registered. We have so far, it's my understanding, FEMA has distributed over $17 million in direct assistance to 3,000 residents, which is a big lift. We want that to increase. We expect it to increase. We know you have to apply by August 11th, so get your application in. We want to see those numbers to continue to rise every single day as we have been, and that's a good thing. A few other things we've talked about: state funding. We don't have details to share with you yet, but that's why it's important to come back to our assistance centers early next week. We look forward to getting information about how the state and other partners can be assisting our communities. And as we work here locally, we have been really relying on the federal pots, the state pots, and we are going to be developing a plan here in the coming days to start distributing local funds as well. We want to make sure that we're not being duplicative here. We want to be very intentional and making sure that we're letting FEMA address what they can, the state can address, and then letting the city fill in the gaps. We do not want to be duplicative, and that is why we are being very intentional and making sure we're understanding how those bigger pots of money, those other assistance, are able to really penetrate as we work on developing our local distribution channels. With that, I am really excited about this. I know we're all hot. I'll take some questions, but I really just want to thank all of our partners here and making sure that we are getting the information and getting the assistance out to our residents who continue to so badly need it.
Mayor, if people receive funds from FEMA, will they also be able to get the funds from like the RAMS settlement money and the state funds as well?
Thank you, Elliot. We are trying to make sure we recognize while FEMA is very important and they are doing a significant lift in direct assistance, that there are needs beyond that. And so we're working to make sure that we are going to be, as those programs, as the details are outlined, we'll make sure that information is available to folks to clarify. We don't anticipate providing any resources that FEMA is already providing, but rather adding to it. And that's important for legal reasons, but it's also going to be very important for being very clear and intentional about the assistance that those different pots of money, those different assistance mechanisms can provide people.
Mayor, how important is it to get these centers into the communities that have been impacted rather than someplace like SLU? Not that that's bad, but going directly into the communities. How important is it to get here, and how satisfied have you been so far with the amount that FEMA has been able to do at this point?
Thank you. Initially it was important to stand up one big center right off the bat. SLU was a phenomenal partner. We wanted to make sure that we had one coordinated approach there, and Chaffetz was phenomenal at providing that. Now that we're coming into another phase of recovery, having them directly in the impacted areas is important, and that's why these three new locations are very important here. I think that they've both played very vital roles here, but it is important that people can be able to walk right up. They're within community and trusted spaces like St. Louis Public Schools, so folks are feeling compelled to engage in that process. FEMA, I will say, there are some shifting regulations from the federal level, and I have to give the staff on site here just an enormous amount of credit. We are overwhelmingly grateful and impressed with the resource, with what the staff that we have on site here. As it relates to what they can do to individuals, that is an individual case-by-case basis. I don't want to speak to that, but I will say that the staff here have been phenomenal to work with from our perspective, and what we have seen, the interactions with our community has been impressive, compassionate, and we know that the folks that are here are doing what they can to assist our residents.
Will these centers be stood up through the FEMA deadline, or is there a metric for deciding how long these are going to be up?
I don't have the answer to that right now. We are looking to make sure that we are providing direct to resident assistance through the deadline to the best of our ability. While, commitments to these particular spaces, I don't have those timelines available. I will say from a city perspective, we are committed to doing everything in our power to make sure that residents have access as to the best of our ability through the deadline.
Mayor, I think you said basically that FEMA has spent $17 million and helped like 3,000 people. How has that money been spent? Like on home repairs, on relocations, How has FEMA spent that money?
To clarify, the way I understand it, $17 million has been distributed to about 3,000 residents. That's direct to individual assistance. How those individuals have spent those monies, I don't have the answer to that, but what I understand to be primarily through replacement of personal items, hotel vouchers, deposits, and first month's rent. So individuals are able to get resettled into housing units in the intermediary.
Can you put that 3,000 people helped number in perspective? How many people do you estimate were victims of this tornado? Do you have that number?
We still don't have, I don't want to misspeak here, but we are estimating that there are tens of thousands of folks that have been impacted here at this point. It's really hard to say because, just to quantify, we have lots of databases. So many organizations have done such a heavy lifting in direct to a resident assistance. Quantifying those folks, making sure there's no overlap is almost impossible at this time, and that's why we're really encouraging anybody and everybody who's been impacted to apply to FEMA. It's also helping us get a good handle of how many people have been impacted by the tornado.
So would it be fair to say that 3,000 number is still a small number compared to the
It is fair to say that as far as we know right now, that 3,000 number of people that have gotten direct FEMA assistance is a fraction of the overall number of people that have been impacted by the tornado.
Is that the only money that's gotten divvied out so far, Mayor?
Say that
Is
again?
that the only money that's gotten divvied out so far as federal funds, or have there been state funds that have been allocated as well?
It's my understanding that the FEMA, the direct aid, is what has been directly, in addition to the enormous number of funds coming from nonprofits and individual assistance, the Urban League, Diamond, there's a whole host of direct to assistance, whether it's providing water, providing food, providing hotel vouchers. So many organizations have also been stepping up and providing that assistance, and we're looking to make sure that they have the support to get through the rest of the summer months here.
Should
With
we have
the
had
heat being such a big deal right now, do you feel like that might deter people coming out here because it's in a parking lot? What would you tell people, that you guys do have generators and whatnot? What would you say to that?
I would say that, I'm hoping that the heat can actually help propel people to want to come in for some shade, for some cooling. We know that the generators here have been an issue, and that's why we're working our tails off. I'm so grateful again to the state, our state partners here, and making sure that they're doing everything we can to make sure that this is a comfortable space, that we are inviting, it's healthful, and has an appropriate temperature to be able to make people comfortable and get them applied for the things they need.
Mayor, should there have been better coordination? I mean, we've had to wait more than a month for FEMA, obviously, and FEMA is working at it, getting those funds out. But the city funds have not gotten out, and so the people have still been suffering and struggling all this time.
Yeah, well, Elliot, I want to be very clear. We have been very bullish on getting FEMA here from the beginning because they represent such an important and pivotal funding source for disasters. And it's important and necessary that local funding sources do not duplicate FEMA efforts. We were very intentional in ensuring that we didn't do that, and I think while it was painful and remains painful for so many of our residents and the impacted communities to wait, and we recognize that, and it is not our timeline, the FEMA timeline is not our timeline. We do very much appreciate people's patience and recognizing that in order for us not to duplicate efforts, we had to get FEMA embedded in our communities first.
Is there any focus on the homeless?
There is, Elliot, and actually I want to thank you for highlighting the need in that community. You've done an excellent job. While it's sometimes confrontational, I also know that your intentions are humanitarian and really people-focused. We are focusing on what we can do at the local level. We are, as you can imagine, all of our staff and all of the city resources are spread very thin, but we also recognize that temperatures are dangerously hot, and we are working not only to get folks some of the ice and water that you've recommended or that you've recognized is so important, but a plan for making sure we can get through these summer months, recognizing that our unhoused population is unusually high because of the tornado, and that we have folks that are maybe not necessarily living in homeless encampments, but living in tents next to their homes. And so those unusual circumstances, we're trying to be very mindful, and we'll have some better, more programmatic plans in place next week, Elliot.
Since we've been talking about FEMA, I want to bring up Willie Nunn with FEMA.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Willie. I forgot to bring you up. Thank
No,
you. I
ma'am.
didn't know you were going to be talking. But yes, thank you. Of course. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Willie Nunn, the Federal Coordinating Officer for FEMA. I just have to thank the mayor for leading this effort, opening the disaster recovery centers across the impacted area. Like I said, city-led, state and FEMA supported. Those folks inside are a combination of that support. Also, as I left my hotel to start work this morning, I got to thank the media. I saw reports of this center and other centers being open, so you are our partners in this as well. Some of the things that we were asking the mayor about FEMA, those $17 million plus, yes, that's the beginning. That's the beginning. But it will be informed by those folks who are calling in to us. And then they asked about that 17 million is based on the need of that individual, what they're eligible for. That it's all about that individual. They tell that story, and then if the need continues, they call us again, and we will help them with that. One of the things I want to stress is to apply, as the mayor said, that 1-800-621-3362, disasterassistance.gov. If they have the app, please do that. It's to stress that if you have been displaced from your home by the May 16 tornado, please call, because one thing you can ask for is rental assistance. Rental assistance. And so if you qualify, you've been displaced, please call and then tell your story, and you can ask for rental assistance. And that will, as the mayor said, get us started. We'll come from that response from the 16th of May till we got here, boots on the ground with this disaster on the 10th of June. We transitioned into recovery. The mayor's working with us together to make sure that we set this city up for success as they have a long-term recovery. So one of the things I do want to provide, because the mayor mentioned those, is that what you can help us with is the now location of the city's disaster recovery centers here in the parking lot at 4248 Cottage Avenue. The second one that opened earlier at the Union Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church at 626 North Newstead Avenue. And the summer high school here, the hours are 8 to 6, 8 to 7, Monday through Saturday, and Sunday 8 to 6. The Union Tabernacle is 6 days a week, closed on Sunday, Monday through Saturday, 8 to 8. The ones coming soon, as the mayor mentioned, the Urban League Entrepreneurship and Women Business Center is at 4401 Natural Bridge Avenue. And that one's coming soon. We open on Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and on Sunday, 8 to 6. And why give that? Because it's important. You can help us as we continue to get that word out to communities, because once they register, once they give us their needs, a disaster recovery center will be where they can walk in and ask questions and talk to a real person, or talk to a specialist. I would also stress that if they can, but it's not a total requirement, because we can look it up, their FEMA number once they register. Because they have that, we can go right to that case, and we sit down and we start talking. We often run it. So the people we have here are people ready to serve, working with the city, working with the volunteer agencies, working together. We have people working with the Urban League, Red Cross has been working with us, and so on and so forth of the volunteer agencies. So it's a community family that's trying to do this together. FEMA is not the team, we're just a part of the team. And I think we have a great team lead in the city.
Can you walk us through I know every need is different, but for soup to nuts, for people who, when they first contact FEMA, what's the timeline for getting it processed and getting that assistance to them?
It will depend on what the information they have once they call. But I can give you a generic timeline. As soon as they call, if there's anything that we can give them that we can verify, that will be looked at and eligibility will be determined. However, for household damages and that kind of thing, we need to get their addresses, and we have to have a house inspector to come out to look at that home to determine how much that they may be eligible for. And then once that happens, that could be more sooner than later. That's why it's important that when the individual get a call from a FEMA household inspector, they need to answer that, and then they will schedule a time for them to meet at their home, and then we will do that inspection. I have to thank the Red Cross because they're working with us to make sure people who can't get to those places because they may be displaced or have any other issue, they're making sure that they can get there while they're here. And we'll continue that working with the city as that need continues. But sir, I would say as quick as possible. It depends on the case. It depends on that first call. It depends on the information that we get, and we're acting on it as soon as we can.
What would you tell people? You spoke to a little bit there, but if people are watching and they haven't made that call yet or they haven't gone online, it seems to me that the highest priority is for them to get that done, right? What's your message to folks as they're listening to this today if they have damage and they need help?
Make the call. And I understand that not everyone has a phone. I understand that not everybody can get on an app. But we have folks out in those outreach centers, not just here, but across the community that we're coordinating with the city, that we have FEMA folks in those facilities. And so what they can do, if they can't get here, those facilities that the mayor announced, and we can get you those locations if you don't have them. But they can do that. But register when you can, because that puts you in the database, that gets you started, and that will get you on your way to what you're eligible for.
I know FEMA is focused on the uninsured. What are you guys doing to help the underinsured? Because there are a lot of people that their insurance companies just won't get them even in the neighborhood of what they need to.
Yes.
You want me to speak to that real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I can speak to that really quickly, Elliot. The and the underinsured, you heard us talk about some state programs. The state allocated through a bill that was passed and signed by the governor last month, $25 million in and underinsured assistance. We are still waiting for details. We're hoping to be able to share more information about that next week. We also know the state has a program that makes the deductible, as you can apply for deductible assistance through a state tax credit. And again, we're going to be sharing hopefully more information about those programs next week.
Thank you.
And ma'am, just to add to that, doing exactly as the mayor said, but that's the importance of that call, sir. That when they make that call, we pick up where insurance or underinsured stops to help the individual.
Would you speak to the scope of this response here, the scope of the damage? I mean, you do this a lot. How big is the situation you're dealing with in the city of St. Louis right now?
I want the mayor to go first, but if she would like, but I can only tell you, would you like to go first, ma'am? I can go. I'll let him. I'm sorry.
You can do
Okay. All right. I get passionate about that because one thing I would tell you, I had the opportunity to ride along with the state director of emergency management, along with FEMA regional administrator. We were in the car for 2 hours, riding the path of Newstead Avenue, all those avenues, just to see it, because drones footage doesn't do it justice. Photos doesn't do it justice. You have to sit there and walk and look at that. And from initially, before I got out there, I was told that the impact was twice as Joplin was in 2011. And I thought of Joplin. Joplin is on acre properties, stick homes. What I saw in the city of St. Louis is 6-story brick buildings built in the 1900s. These buildings, some of the buildings' sides are still standing but inhabitable. the city has done a great job of doing red, yellow, and green, talking about what's habitable and what may not be habitable and what's not. And so just seeing that, it's intense. And we don't, we have been working with the city to talk about the debris, how much debris has already been picked up. But there's still so much more because some of those walls have to come down. And that is a process within itself.
Are we still looking at between maybe 1.7 billion and $2 billion total damage?
Yeah, we are still trying to evaluate that, Elliot. It is, as we go through and get folks applied and continue to evaluate, we're going to continue to refine those figures. But as the FEMA director pointed out, I mean, it's difficult to really quantify and to really understand the scope of this. With FEMA or with Joplin, the destruction was really very, very, very intense and complete in a way. And one of the complicating features here of our tornado is just the hodgepodge nature of it. You have buildings that were taken entirely down next to buildings that are still intact. It makes the recovery, the quantification of the damage, all of those things very, very complicated because you can't just take a look and estimate geographically. It's a case-by-case basis. It's very unusual and it's very complicated. And we're here for the long haul. As you can see, we're not letting up while we're shifting our resources and shifting our approach and refining how we're providing resources to the community, taking them from Chaffetz, where we had one big center, into the community to make. We are continuing to evolve the response, and we will continue to refine that as we move forward. We're not letting up. We're shifting and continuing to mobilize in different ways.
Any estimate on how long recovery will be?
We're looking, this is a long process, Elliot. We'll certainly be looking at years. I mean, we're going to be marking this by years, not days, not by months, but by years. Okay.
Mayor, quickly, on the city's website, public records show that the police department has spent in the last 2 years almost $3 million at Don Brown Chevrolet. Any concern with Don Brown being on the board of commissioners?
That is news to me. I hadn't seen that, but I will be taking that seriously, and we'll be looking at that. Thank you for uncovering that.
I'm just
Yeah.
going to follow up. What's your reaction to the people who were chosen to be on the St. Louis Police Board?
Well, as you know, I have been a strong advocate and remain strongly in favor of local control of our police department, and that has not changed. The appointments were not made by me or my office, and they were made by the governor's office. I'm going to serve as mayor as one of those appointments in the best way to promote safety and the well-being of our communities. And so that's my role here, and I'm going to fulfill it.
Are you disappointed by the governor's picks?
I am going to serve in my position, in my role. I'm going to serve in the best way that I possibly can. Any other questions about any other topics? All right. Look, I've said before, I've lost confidence in the sheriff. I think, removing somebody from office is a very, very difficult position. It shouldn't be handled politically. Right now it's in the hands of the courts, and we're going to see what happens. But, I think, I know that the role of the sheriff is an important one. Fulfilling those duties is critical to the well-being of those folks that are in our custody. I've been disappointed with the failure to make sure that individuals who need medical assistance haven't been able to get that because of refusals to transport prisoners. That's inexcusable in my view. That being said, again, I think those actions are serious. They shouldn't be handled politically. But again, this one right now is in the courts, and we're going to see how this plays out. In my mind, I would have rather to have had an elected sheriff perform the duties that are required of that office. That is what my preference in this matter would have been and remains, to be fulfilling the duties of the sheriff. I think it's incredibly important that we have those duties fulfilled. It's been disappointing and frankly dangerous to fail to do that. The Detention Oversight Board and myself, along with the Director of Public Safety, toured the jail facility Earlier this week, we had a full tour with Tammy Ross, the acting director, and I have to say I was impressed by the relationship that the director, Tammy Ross, clearly has with many of those folks incarcerated. I'm grateful that there was no hesitation whatsoever when we asked to take that tour and to be involved in what's going on there. Housing people is a sacred responsibility, one that the city does have to fulfill and needs to fulfill well. So I think that's an incredibly important piece there. The sheriff's role is a very important one. They are very active in the jail facility, and they play a very critical role in transporting those that are incarcerated both to the facility and as needed for medical assistance. And I don't take that lightly. That role is an important one, and in my view hasn't been performed at the standards that it needs to be performed at for the criminal justice system to work well and have the support and the trust of the community that it so badly needs. Any other questions?
Be appointed rather than elected in the future?
I can't really speak on that. That's an interesting question, Austin, and one I think we should be thinking about. I don't mean to dismiss it. I just don't have an opinion that is fully formed at this point. But maybe it's one we should consider. I don't have the answer to that right now.
Mayor, just to
Okay.
be clear,
And
Mayor,
these guys are all hot. We're all hot. I'll take one more question just for the sake of heat, but I don't mean to. If you have other questions later, I can answer them.
no, I just want to make sure we're clear. The only money that's been divvied out to residents so far is the $17 million from FEMA to those 3,000. None of the state funds, none of the local funds.
It's my understanding that we haven't done that yet. But next week we should have. We will have some more information about. Again, the important piece here was to really understand where the gaps in those larger funding sources were going to be. We have not fully identified those, but we are working quickly to make sure that we are deploying those as quickly as possible. People are suffering. It's very, very clear, and we do not want to be holding back funds that can be making people's lives more comfortable in this tragedy. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks. All right, you're really.